Now that we've discussed how you're going to approach planning your scope, we now get into the real substance of the planning process. Understanding scope is essential to the success of the project. Make sure you understand the purpose and the elements here because they are meant to spell out exactly what work is in the project. If the scope is poorly defined, the chance for project failure increases dramatically. Scope definition documents the project objectives, deliverables, and requirements so they can be used to direct the project work. Also, they're used as the basis for project decisions, and they serve as the project baseline. The inputs for scope definition are organizational process assets, project charter, preliminary project scope statement, project scope management plan, and approved change requests. I'll get into the key information from each of these inputs on the next slide. The last item, however, change requests, are something that will impact scope and might also impact quality, costs, and schedule. Changes imply a modification to the scope statement itself and possibly other planning documents too. Within those inputs is key information that's relevant for scope, including historical information, product description, project objectives, assumptions, and constraints. Product analysis is a method for converting the product description and project objectives into deliverables and requirements. It may include value analysis, functional analysis, systems engineering techniques, systems analysis, or value engineering techniques to define the product or service in detail. Alternatives identification is a technique for discovering different ways of accomplishing the project, something like building versus buying the software. It can also include brainstorming to find technical alternatives for infrastructure to support what is being built. Lateral thinking, or thinking outside the box, was a term created by Edward de Bono. Lateral thinking means you're looking at a problem from various different angles to see a solution that may not be an obvious one. We've discussed the usage of expert judgment before and can move on to a more in-depth look at stakeholder analysis. In this case, stakeholder analysis is where you're identifying the stakeholders' expectations, needs, and desires. From this, you derive the detail of the project goals and deliverables. It's assumed that you've brought the stakeholders in during the project charter or preliminary scope statement creation. But this analysis is a revisit to the information you've accumulated about the stakeholders and what they want. You want to bring that information into additional detail in this next deliverable. Remember the term progressive elaboration? This is a good example of it. Additionally, you want to understand the organization structure and where the stakeholders fit into that structure. You want to meet with each of the key stakeholders and document their needs, wants, and expectations. You want to find out how they expect the project will change their business through change, enhancements, or replacements, and determine if this expectation is a critical or a good enhancement. Not only are you adding more detail to the expected project results or objectives, it's now important to describe them and how they'll look when the project is completed. You also need to prioritize them. This is the time to make sure the stakeholder list is complete and no key stakeholders have been missed. If a key stakeholder suddenly shows up in the middle of your project, the results can impact your budget, schedule, and various other plans. In the next section, we'll discuss the output of this process.